Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they surrender to themselves. Every impulse obeyed weakens your future. Every temptation accepted steals a piece of your freedom. Every emotional reaction gives away your power. But every temptation resisted builds someone stronger than yesterday. Self-control is not restriction. It is liberation. It is the invisible force behind confidence, wealth, health, respect, and lasting success. This audiobook will teach you how to stop being controlled by your emotions, your habits, your cravings, and your excuses. Because the greatest victory you will ever win is the one you win over yourself. Chapter 1. Stop. Obeying every impulse. Most people believe they have a discipline problem. They don't. They have an obedience problem, not obedience to other people. Obedience to every impulse that appears inside their own minds. A craving appears. They obey it. A notification sounds. They reach for it. They feel bored. They search for entertainment. They feel stressed. They eat. They feel lonely. They chase attention. They feel uncomfortable. They escape. Little by little, they become servants to whatever emotion arrives first. That is how freedom disappears. Not in one dramatic decision, in thousands of tiny acts of surrender. Self-control begins the moment you realize something simple. You do not have to obey every thought. You do not have to obey every feeling. You do not have to obey every desire. You have a choice. That's the key. Modern life has trained you to confuse wanting something with needing it. The moment you want coffee, you buy it. The moment you want entertainment, you open your phone. The moment you feel hungry, even if you ate an hour ago, you search for food. The moment silence becomes uncomfortable, you fill it with noise. The world profits every time you lose control. Entire industries are built around keeping your attention, your emotions, and your impulses active every minute of every day. Your phone is designed to interrupt you. Advertising is designed to create desire. Streaming platforms are designed to remove stopping points. Social media is designed to make waiting feel impossible. None of this happens by accident. Every notification competes for your attention. Every advertisement competes for your wallet. Every distraction competes for your future. If you never learn to control yourself, someone else will happily control you. That is why self-control is no longer just a virtue. It is survival. Remember this phrase: wanting something doesn't mean you need it. Say it again. Wanting something doesn't mean you need it. Your brain will produce thousands of wants every day. Very few of them deserve your obedience. You may want another hour of sleep. You may want another dessert. You may want to avoid difficult conversations. You may want to quit your workout halfway through. You may want to postpone your goals until tomorrow. None of those wants define you. Your decisions do. It's not about desire. It's about discipline. The strongest people are not those who never experience temptation. They simply refuse to let temptation become command. Think about someone standing in front of a bakery. The smell is incredible. Fresh bread, warm pastries, sweet desserts. The desire is real. But desire alone does not force action. There is always one moment. A tiny moment. Almost invisible. Between feeling the impulse and making the decision, that tiny space is where your future lives. That tiny space is where character is built. That tiny space determines everything. You have a choice. That's the key. Most failures happen because people erase that space. They react instantly. Impulse becomes action before awareness has a chance to appear. Someone insults them. They immediately respond with anger. Someone posts something online. They immediately argue. A sale appears. They immediately spend money they never planned to spend. A difficult task appears. They immediately delay it. Life becomes one endless chain of automatic reactions. Automatic reactions create predictable lives. Conscious decisions create extraordinary lives. There is an enormous difference. One person is controlled by circumstances. The other controls themselves regardless of circumstances. Which person becomes trustworthy? Which person becomes respected? Which person becomes successful over 20 years? The answer is obvious. Now consider how impulses disappear. This is something many people never notice. Every craving feels permanent. But it never is. The urge to check your phone fades. The urge to eat unhealthy food fades. The urge to argue fades. The urge to buy something fades. Emotions rise. Emotions peak. Then emotions fall. The problem is that most people never wait long enough to discover this. Instead, they satisfy the urge immediately. And every time they do, they teach their brain a dangerous lesson. I don't have to tolerate discomfort. That lesson becomes a habit. That habit becomes a personality. That personality becomes a destiny. It's not about comfort. It's about endurance. Imagine receiving an angry message. Every instinct tells you to reply immediately. You want to defend yourself. You want to explain yourself. You want the final word. But what happens if you wait? 10 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day. Suddenly, your emotions begin to settle. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your words become wiser. Sometimes you even realize no response is necessary. That single pause may save a friendship. Protect a career. Preserve your reputation. Pause before you act. Those 4 words can change an entire life. Pause before you act. Before spending money. Pause. Before speaking in anger. Pause. Before quitting. Pause. Before giving up. Pause. Before accepting another distraction. Pause. You have a choice. That's the key. Consider overspending. Most purchases are emotional, not logical. People don't buy because they need something. They buy because they want relief. Relief from boredom. Relief from insecurity. Relief from comparison. Relief from stress. But the relief lasts minutes. The debt lasts months. Impulses disappear. Consequences remain. Think about unhealthy eating. One dessert lasts 10 minutes. One unhealthy habit repeated for 10 years changes an entire body. Think about procrastination. Avoiding one difficult task feels comfortable today, but unfinished work creates weeks of anxiety. Impulses are temporary. Consequences are lasting. Never forget that. This is why discipline becomes easier the more you practice it. Many people think discipline drains energy. The opposite is true. Every small act of self-control strengthens the next one. Each victory becomes evidence. Evidence becomes confidence. Confidence becomes identity. Identity becomes habit. The first time you ignore your phone, it feels difficult. The 10th time becomes easier. The 100th time becomes natural. Eventually, you stop feeling deprived. You begin feeling powerful, because now you're making decisions. Your impulses are not. That is real freedom. Self-control never begins with giant transformations. It begins with one interruption, one conscious breath, one deliberate pause, one decision not to react automatically, one moment of saying no. That tiny interruption changes everything. It breaks the chain between impulse and action. It reminds you that you're still in command. Every time you interrupt an impulse, you strengthen your future. Every time you resist temptation, you build someone stronger. Every time you delay gratification, you increase your freedom. That is how powerful people are made. Quietly, patiently, repeatedly, not through dramatic moments, through ordinary decisions. Power begins with one pause. Say it again. Power begins with one pause. One pause today, another tomorrow, another the day after that. Those pauses accumulate. They become discipline. Discipline becomes character. Character becomes destiny. This chapter is not asking you to eliminate every temptation. That isn't possible. It is asking you to stop surrendering automatically. You have a choice. That's the key. Wanting something doesn't mean you need it. Pause before you act. Power begins with one pause. Master those 3 ideas, and you begin taking back control of your life, one decision at a time. Chapter 2. Master your emotions before they master you. Your emotions are real. They matter. They deserve your attention. But they should never be given complete authority over your life. This is where many people lose their power. They mistake emotion for instruction. They feel angry, so they believe they should attack. They feel afraid, so they believe they should retreat. They feel jealous, so they believe they are falling behind. They feel discouraged, so they believe they should quit. But emotions were never designed to lead your life. They were designed to inform it. There is an enormous difference. A smoke alarm tells you there may be danger. It is not the danger itself. Likewise, an emotion tells you that something inside or outside you deserves attention. It is information, not a command. Yet millions of people treat every emotion as an order that must be obeyed immediately. That is why relationships collapse over a single conversation. That is why careers are destroyed by one angry email. That is why years of progress disappear because of one emotional decision made in 5 careless minutes. You have a choice. That's the key. Between feeling and reacting, there is always a moment. Small, quiet, almost invisible. Most people never notice it. The disciplined person does. And that single moment changes everything. Remember this throughout your life. Feel everything. Obey nothing. Feel the anger. Do not let it drive. Feel the fear. Do not let it decide. Feel the disappointment. Do not let it define your future. Feel the excitement. Do not let it blind your judgment. Emotions are temporary visitors. Character is the permanent resident. That is the difference between people who build lasting success and people who constantly sabotage themselves. Consider anger. Anger itself is not evil. Sometimes it reveals injustice. Sometimes it reveals that a boundary has been crossed. Sometimes it exposes something that genuinely needs to change. But anger has terrible eyesight. It sees only the present moment. It cannot see tomorrow. It cannot see consequences. It cannot see the damage caused by uncontrolled words. An angry person often believes they are solving a problem. In reality, they are creating several new ones. One sentence spoken in rage can erase years of trust. One reckless decision can destroy decades of credibility. One emotional outburst can become the moment people remember long after your accomplishments have been forgotten. Ask yourself a simple question before reacting. Will this decision still make sense tomorrow? If the answer is uncertain, wait. Pause before you act. You have a choice. That's the key. Now think about fear. Fear has protected human beings for thousands of years. Without fear, our ancestors would have ignored predators, cliffs, storms, and danger. Fear is useful, but modern fear rarely protects us from lions. Instead, it protects us from growth. Fear whispers that you shouldn't apply for the better job. Fear says you shouldn't start the business, Fear tells you not to speak because someone may judge you. Fear convinces you that failure is fatal, but failure is rarely fatal. Regret often is. Every meaningful achievement requires walking through uncertainty. The entrepreneur feels fear. The athlete feels fear. The surgeon feels fear. The public speaker feels fear. The difference is not the absence of fear. The difference is refusing to surrender to it. Feel everything. Obey nothing. Jealousy tells another dangerous story. Someone else succeeds. Immediately, comparison begins. Why them? Why not me? Maybe I'm too late. Maybe I'm not talented enough. Maybe life is unfair. Notice how quickly jealousy changes your attention. Instead of improving yourself, you become obsessed with someone else's progress. Instead of building, you begin comparing. Comparison steals energy that should have been invested in growth. The disciplined person asks a different question. What can I learn from their success? That question creates opportunity. Jealousy creates resentment. Curiosity creates improvement. You have a choice. That's the key. Frustration works the same way. Plans fail. Traffic appears. Technology breaks. People disappoint you. Life refuses to cooperate. Frustration is inevitable. But emotional surrender is optional. The emotionally controlled person understands something powerful. Reality is not required to match expectations. The faster you accept reality, the faster you can improve it. Resistance wastes energy. Acceptance creates solutions. Feel everything. Obey nothing. Now think about the people you admire most. The greatest leaders in history rarely became legendary because they experienced fewer emotions than everyone else. They became legendary because they refused to become prisoners of those emotions. Imagine the pilot flying through violent turbulence. Passengers panic. Some scream. Others pray. The pilot cannot afford emotional chaos. The aircraft needs steady hands. Imagine a surgeon performing a delicate operation. A mistake measured in millimeters could cost a life. The surgeon may feel pressure, but pressure cannot control the hands holding the scalpel. Imagine a firefighter entering a burning building. Fear exists. It would be foolish if it didn't. But training stands above fear. Discipline takes control. The same principle applies to your own life, your workplace, your family, your finances, your relationships. Every difficult moment asks the same question: who is in charge? Your emotions or your principles? The world's highest performers understand this. Elite athletes train for years so they can remain composed during the seconds that matter most. Championships are rarely decided by physical ability alone. They are often decided by emotional stability. One athlete panics after making a mistake. Another immediately refocuses. One loses confidence. The other adjusts and continues. The scoreboard eventually reflects the difference. Calm creates clarity. Repeat it. Calm creates clarity. A calm mind notices opportunities. A calm mind hears what others miss. A calm mind solves problems instead of becoming another problem. When your emotions settle, your intelligence finally has room to work. That is why emotional control is not emotional suppression. Many people misunderstand this. They think self-control means pretending nothing hurts. They believe strong people never cry, never grieve, never feel anxious, never experience disappointment. That is not strength. That is denial. Denial hides emotions. Discipline manages them. You're allowed to feel deeply. You simply refuse to become controlled by what you feel. There is a powerful practice that changes everything. Observe your emotions instead of becoming them. Notice the difference between these two statements. I am angry. I notice anger. I am anxious. I notice anxiety. I am a failure. I notice thoughts of failure. Those tiny changes in language create enormous changes in identity. The first statement traps you. The second frees you. Because now you're the observer, not the emotion. Imagine sitting beside a river. Leaves float past on the current. Some are beautiful. Some are damaged. Some move quickly. Some move slowly. Your thoughts are those leaves. Your emotions are those leaves. Your job is not to jump into the river and chase every one of them. Your job is to watch them pass. Some deserve attention. Most simply disappear if you leave them alone. Thoughts pass. Emotions pass. Character remains. That sentence is worth remembering every day of your life. Thoughts pass. Emotions pass. Character remains. The strongest people are not emotionally empty. They are emotionally anchored. Storms come. Storms go. The anchor remains. Become that anchor. Every morning, remind yourself that you cannot control every emotion that appears, but you can control your response. Every difficult conversation becomes an opportunity to practice. Every disappointment becomes another repetition. Every criticism becomes another test. Every victory becomes another reason to stay humble. Life gives endless opportunities to strengthen emotional discipline. Take them. One by one. Day after day. Eventually, something remarkable happens. You stop reacting automatically. You stop saying things you regret. You stop allowing temporary emotions to create permanent damage. People begin trusting your judgment. They rely on your stability. They respect your consistency. Not because you became emotionless, because you became emotionally reliable. That is true strength. Never forget the 3 principles that define this chapter. Feel everything. Obey nothing. Calm creates clarity. You are not your feelings. Repeat them until they become part of your identity. Because your emotions are powerful servants, but dangerous masters. Master them, and they become fuel. Allow them to master you, and they become chains. Chapter 3. Delay. Pleasure. Multiply freedom. Every life is shaped by one invisible question. Do you want relief now, or freedom later? Most people never ask themselves this question consciously. They simply answer it through their habits. Every day, every hour, every decision, they spend before they save. They consume before they create. They quit before they grow. They entertain themselves before they educate themselves. Then they wonder why the future never changes. The answer is simple. They traded tomorrow for today. Again and again. Self-control demands something different. It asks you to become comfortable with waiting. Not because waiting is pleasant, because waiting is powerful. The greatest rewards in life rarely belong to the person who wants them most. They belong to the person willing to wait, work, and prepare the longest. That is the hidden engine behind every meaningful achievement. Delayed gratification. 2 words. One life-changing principle. Every successful investment begins with money that was not spent. Every strong body begins with meals that were not eaten. Every respected expert begins with evenings that were not wasted. Every meaningful career begins with years when progress looked invisible. Nothing extraordinary appears overnight. Everything valuable grows quietly. You have a choice. That's the key. Every temptation asks the same question. What do you value more? The comfort of this moment or the freedom of your future? Remember this. Temporary discomfort creates permanent strength. Say it again. Temporary discomfort creates permanent strength. Think about saving money. Many people believe wealth begins with earning more. Sometimes it does. Often it doesn't. Many high-income earners remain financially trapped because they cannot delay pleasure. A larger paycheck simply produces larger spending. More restaurants, more subscriptions, more impulse purchases, more debt. Income grows. Freedom does not. Now imagine someone earning less but consistently choosing patience. They save before spending. They invest before upgrading. They prepare before celebrating. Years pass. One person owns expensive possessions. The other owns choices. Who is truly wealthy? Freedom is not measured by what you can buy today. Freedom is measured by what you no longer have to fear tomorrow. Temporary discomfort creates permanent strength. Fitness teaches the same lesson. Every workout asks for discomfort. Every healthy meal asks for restraint. Every early morning asks for sacrifice. No one builds strength while remaining comfortable. Muscles grow because they experience resistance. Character grows exactly the same way. You cannot become mentally stronger while avoiding everything difficult. The person who leaves the gym after 15 minutes because it became uncomfortable trains weakness. The person who finishes despite discomfort trains identity. Eventually, the body reflects what the mind practiced first. Discipline always begins internally. Education follows the same principle. Imagine two people finishing work at the same time. One immediately reaches for endless entertainment. Hours disappear. Nothing changes. The other reads, studies, practices, learns a new skill. At first, their evenings look almost identical. 5 years later, their lives look completely different. Knowledge compounds, just like money, just like habits, just like discipline. Small decisions repeated long enough become extraordinary advantages. Career growth follows the same law. The employee who constantly asks, "What's required?" often remains exactly where they are. The employee who asks, "What else can I learn?" quietly separates themselves from everyone else. They volunteer. They prepare. They improve without being asked. Promotion is no longer luck. It becomes the natural consequence of years spent investing instead of consuming. That is delayed gratification. Working now, receiving later, giving now, growing later, preparing now, leading later. You have a choice. That's the key. But modern life fights this principle every single day. Everything is faster. Food arrives instantly. Movies begin immediately. Packages arrive tomorrow. Answers appear within seconds. Convenience has become the expectation. Waiting has become uncomfortable. Yet the most valuable parts of life still refuse to hurry. Trust cannot be rushed. Wisdom cannot be downloaded. Confidence cannot be purchased. Respect cannot be demanded. Character cannot be manufactured overnight. The greatest rewards still obey the old rules. Patience, consistency, discipline. That is why comfort can become so dangerous. Comfort often disguises itself as happiness. The comfortable chair, the extra hour in bed, the endless scrolling, the unnecessary purchase, the excuse to start tomorrow. None of these feel dangerous. In fact, they often feel pleasant. That is exactly why they are difficult to recognize. Comfort rarely destroys your future dramatically. It does it quietly. One comfortable decision, then another, then another. Months pass. Years pass. Life remains exactly the same. People say they are stuck, but they are not stuck. They are simply repeating comfortable decisions. Comfort feels safe. Growth rarely does. Comfort says, "Stay where you are." Discipline whispers, become more. Comfort asks for nothing. Discipline asks for effort. Comfort promises ease. Discipline promises transformation. One gives immediate pleasure. The other gives lasting freedom. Choose carefully, because your habits are voting every day. Remember this phrase, choose tomorrow over today. Repeat it. Choose tomorrow over today. When you want to skip your workout, choose tomorrow over today. When you want to spend money, you should invest. Choose tomorrow over today. When you want to quit learning because progress feels slow, choose tomorrow over today. When you want comfort instead of growth, choose tomorrow over today. This does not mean you should never enjoy life. Discipline is not punishment. It is intelligent timing. There is nothing wrong with celebration. The problem comes when celebration happens before the work. Earn the reward. Then enjoy it completely. The sweetest victories belong to those who waited for them. One of the greatest mistakes people make is rewarding themselves before they have earned it. They promise themselves 1 episode before starting work. It becomes 5. They promise themselves 1 unnecessary purchase before reaching their savings goal. The habit continues. They celebrate intentions instead of accomplishments. Then motivation slowly disappears. Reverse the order. Work first. Reward second. Action first. Comfort second. Progress first. Pleasure second. This simple reversal changes everything. There is another habit that emotionally strong people develop. They celebrate resistance itself. Most people celebrate giving in. I deserved that. I couldn't help myself. I'll start again next week. But disciplined people celebrate something entirely different. They celebrate the moment they said no. They feel proud after resisting unnecessary spending. They feel stronger after finishing a difficult workout. They gain confidence after ignoring distractions. Their satisfaction no longer depends on consuming. It depends on becoming. That changes identity. Imagine finishing a long day. You resisted every distraction. You completed your work. You exercised. You kept your promises. Nobody applauds. Nobody notices. Yet something inside you changes. You begin trusting yourself. Self-respect grows quietly. Every resisted temptation becomes evidence. Evidence becomes belief. Belief becomes identity. Identity changes destiny. That is why resisting temptation is never a loss. It is an investment. Every delayed reward strengthens the person you are becoming. Every unnecessary purchase avoided strengthens financial freedom. Every healthy meal strengthens future health. Every difficult conversation handled with patience strengthens relationships. Every hour invested in learning strengthens opportunity. Nothing is wasted. Everything compounds. The future is not created by dramatic breakthroughs. It is created by ordinary decisions repeated until they become extraordinary. Remember the final lesson of this chapter. The future is built 1 decision at a time. Not 1 miracle. Not 1 lucky break. 1 decision. Then another. Then another. 1 disciplined morning. 1 disciplined afternoon. 1 disciplined evening. Years later, people will call you successful. They will admire your confidence, your health, your financial stability, your calmness, your influence. Many will believe you were gifted. Very few will see what really happened. You simply kept choosing tomorrow over today. Again, and again, and again. Temporary discomfort created permanent strength. Comfort lost its control over you. Your future became more important than your impulses. That is real freedom. Never forget the 3 principles that define this chapter. Temporary discomfort creates permanent strength. Choose tomorrow over today. The future is built one decision at a time. Repeat them until they become the standard by which every choice is measured. Because every moment of delayed gratification is more than an act of discipline. It is a declaration. It says that your future matters more than your present cravings. It says that you're no longer a prisoner of immediate pleasure. It says that you are becoming someone who commands yourself. Chapter 4. Control your mind. Before you control your life, everything you build in your life is built twice. First in your mind, then in reality. Every achievement, every failure, every habit, every relationship, every decision. Before your hands move, your mind moves. Before your actions change, your thoughts change. This is why self-control is never just about behavior. Behavior is the visible result. Thought is the invisible cause. Most people spend their lives trying to fix the visible while completely ignoring the invisible. They change routines without changing beliefs. They chase motivation without changing perspective. They attempt to control their lives without ever learning to control their minds. It never lasts, because your mind is always leading your behavior, whether you realize it or not. You have a choice. That's the key. You can allow your thoughts to run your life, or you can begin choosing which thoughts deserve your attention. There is no middle ground. Your attention is your steering wheel. Where it goes, your life follows. Remember this. Guard your mind. Say it again. Guard your mind. Not because the world is always dangerous, but because your attention is always valuable. Imagine planting a garden. If you carefully plant flowers but never remove weeds, what happens? Eventually, the weeds take over. Not because they are stronger, because they were allowed to grow. The human mind works exactly the same way. Negative thinking is often effortless. Constructive thinking requires intention. Complaints grow naturally. Gratitude must be cultivated. Excuses appear automatically. Responsibility must be practiced. Fear speaks loudly. Wisdom usually whispers. Whatever receives your attention grows. If you spend every day consuming fear, your courage weakens. If you spend every day comparing yourself to strangers, your confidence fades. If you constantly replay your failures, you eventually begin expecting more failure. The mind believes what it hears repeatedly. That is why repetition is so powerful. Every thought repeated becomes easier to think again. Neural pathways strengthen. Patterns become habits. Habits become personality. Personality shapes destiny. A single negative thought is not dangerous. 1,000 repetitions of the same negative thought become a prison. Likewise, a single disciplined thought changes little, but thousands of disciplined thoughts quietly transform an entire life. You become what you repeatedly think about. That is why guarding your mind is not optional. It is essential. Every morning you wake up, your attention immediately begins receiving invitations. News, notifications, opinions, arguments, advertising, comparison, fear, outrage, entertainment. Everyone wants access to your mind. Very few people want to strengthen it. Ask yourself this question. Who is programming your thinking today? If the answer is everyone except you, then you have surrendered one of your greatest powers. You have a choice. That's the key. Attention always becomes action. Think about someone who constantly watches videos about expensive lifestyles, luxury homes, luxury cars, perfect vacations, perfect bodies, perfect lives. Eventually, dissatisfaction grows, not because their own life became worse, because their attention changed. Now imagine someone who fills their attention with learning, books, ideas, skills, solutions, growth. Their external life may not change immediately, but their internal world begins expanding. And sooner or later, action follows. Attention becomes intention. Intention becomes behavior. Behavior becomes results. That is why the disciplined person protects their attention as carefully as they protect their money. Money lost can often be earned again. Time and attention cannot. Guard your mind. Now consider excuses. Excuses are among the most persuasive voices you will ever hear. They sound intelligent. They sound reasonable. Sometimes they are even partially true. I don't have enough time. I'm too tired. The timing isn't right. I'll start on Monday. I need better conditions. I've already failed before. Notice something. Every excuse ends the conversation. It closes the door. It demands surrender. Excuses never ask you to grow. They ask you to remain exactly where you are. This is where mental discipline changes everything. Instead of accepting excuses, begin asking better questions. Not, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What can I learn from this?" Not, "Why am I so unlucky?" Ask, "What can I control?" Not, "Why can't I do this?" Ask, "What is one small steps I can take today?" Questions direct attention. Attention directs behavior. Behavior creates results. The quality of your life is heavily influenced by the quality of the questions you ask yourself every day. Imagine two people facing the exact same setback. The first asks, "Why does this always happen to me?" The second asks, "What does this situation require from me?" One question creates helplessness. The other creates responsibility. The situation remains identical. Only the thinking changes. And eventually, everything changes. Direct your thoughts or they will direct you. Repeat it. Direct your thoughts or they will direct you. Thoughts are like horses. If they remain untrained, they run wherever instinct takes them. Fear, comfort, distraction, resentment. But trained horses become powerful allies. Your mind is no different. Training your thinking is not pretending every situation is positive. It is refusing to let negativity become permanent. Mental discipline means noticing destructive thoughts without feeding them. You cannot always control the first thought, but you almost always control the second. Suppose someone criticizes you. The first thought may be anger. That is natural. The second thought can become curiosity. Is there anything useful here? Suppose you make a mistake. The first thought may be embarrassment. The second thought can become growth. What will I do differently next time? That second thought determines your future. The first thought is often instinct. The second thought is character. You have a choice. That's the key. Many people believe changing their lives requires massive breakthroughs. It usually doesn't. It requires small corrections, tiny adjustments, repeated consistently. Think about an airplane crossing an ocean. If the pilot changes direction by only 1 degree, the aircraft eventually lands in an entirely different city. 1 degree. That is all. Your thinking works exactly the same way. One better decision today. One healthier interpretation tomorrow. One calmer response the next day. Small corrections. Massive outcomes. Instead of saying, "I'll never succeed," say, "I'm still learning." Instead of saying, "I always fail," say, "I haven't mastered this yet." Instead of saying, "This is impossible," say, "This is difficult." The facts remain honest, but your thinking becomes useful instead of destructive. That is mental discipline, not fantasy, not denial, direction. Eventually, these intentional thoughts stop feeling artificial. They become automatic. Your internal dialogue changes. Instead of constantly searching for reasons to quit, you begin searching for ways to continue. Instead of defending weakness, you begin strengthening character. Instead of feeding fear, you begin feeding courage. Everything changes because your thinking changed first. Never underestimate the power of reflection. Most people react. Very few people reflect. Reaction is immediate. Reflection creates wisdom. At the end of each day, ask yourself simple questions. What did I do well? Where did I lose control? What triggered me? What will I improve tomorrow? Those 5 quiet minutes may become more valuable than hours of mindless entertainment. Reflection transforms experience into wisdom. Without reflection, people repeat the same mistakes for decades. With reflection, even failure becomes education. That is why emotionally disciplined people grow faster. They are constantly learning from themselves. Everything begins inside. Repeat it. Everything begins inside. Before confidence appears outside, it begins inside. Before discipline becomes visible, it begins inside. Before success becomes measurable, it begins inside. Before freedom becomes reality, it begins inside. Never forget the 3 principles that define this chapter. Guard your mind. Direct your thoughts, or they will direct you. Everything begins inside. Repeat them until they become the foundation of your daily life. Because the quality of your mind determines the quality of your decisions, and the quality of your decisions determines the quality of your future. Master your thinking, and your actions begin to follow. Master your actions, and your life begins to change. Control your mind first. Everything else becomes possible afterward. Chapter 5. Become stronger than your habits. Look closely at any extraordinary life. Then look even closer. You will discover something surprising. Greatness rarely comes from extraordinary days. It comes from ordinary days repeated hundreds, then thousands of times. People admire the championship. They never see the mornings. They celebrate the successful business. They never see the years of preparation. They envy confidence. They ignore the daily habits that quietly built it. Success is rarely dramatic. It is repetitive. That is why habits matter so much. They are the invisible architecture of your life. Every habit is a vote. Not for the life you have, for the person you are becoming. You have a choice. That's the key. Every repeated action asks one simple question. Who are you becoming? Not tomorrow. Not next year. Today. Because identity is not something you discover. It is something you construct. One repeated decision at a time. Remember this. Small actions become permanent character. Repeat it. Small actions become permanent character. Most people overestimate the importance of one big decision. They underestimate the importance of 100 small ones. They believe one productive day will change everything. It won't. They believe one healthy meal transforms their body. It doesn't. They believe one motivational speech creates discipline. It never has. Real transformation happens quietly. You wake up. You make your bed. You drink water. You exercise. You finish your work. You keep your promises. Then you repeat it tomorrow. And again. And again. Months later, people ask what changed. The answer is simple. Nothing changed overnight. Everything changed gradually. Habits are powerful because they ask so little from you each day. One page, one workout, one conversation, one disciplined choice. Individually, they seem insignificant. Collectively, they reshape an entire life. Think about brushing your teeth. No single brushing changes your health dramatically, but neglecting it for years certainly does. The same principle applies to discipline. Every action matters because every action repeats. That repetition builds identity. Suppose someone says, "I want to become healthier." That sounds admirable. But what does a healthy person actually do? They don't become healthy because they say the words. They become healthy because they repeatedly act like a healthy person. They choose water more often than soda. They move when they don't feel like moving. They sleep instead of endlessly scrolling. They prepare meals instead of depending on convenience. Identity follows behavior, not intention. You're not what you hope to become. You're what you repeatedly practice becoming. That's the difference. A writer writes. A leader leads. A disciplined person practices discipline, even on difficult days. Especially on difficult days. You have a choice. That's the key. Many people wait for motivation before acting. They say, "I'll start when I feel inspired." The problem is simple. Motivation is unreliable. Some mornings it arrives. Many mornings it doesn't. If your future depends on motivation, your future becomes unpredictable. Habits eliminate that uncertainty. Habits remove negotiation. You simply do what you have trained yourself to do. That is freedom. Imagine two people waking up early. The first debates with themselves every morning. Should I get up? Should I sleep? Maybe tomorrow. The second no longer argues. The alarm rings. They stand. The decision was made months ago. That is the power of habit. Less thinking, more doing. Discipline becomes automatic. People often believe strong habits are created through stronger willpower. In reality, they are usually created through smarter environments. Environment is one of the most overlooked forces in human behavior. If unhealthy food sits on the kitchen counter, eating it requires almost no effort. If your phone rests beside your bed, checking it becomes automatic. If your television dominates your living room, entertainment becomes the default. Your surroundings quietly shape your choices, more than motivation ever will. That is why successful people design their environments carefully. Remember this: design discipline. Repeat it. Design discipline. Do not rely on constant self-control. Build systems that make self-control easier. Want to read more? Place a book on your pillow before leaving the house. Want to eat healthier? Prepare healthy meals before hunger arrives. Want to stop wasting hours on social media? Remove the applications from your home screen. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Leave your phone in another room while working. Notice something. You are not fighting yourself. You're reducing temptation before temptation appears. That is intelligent discipline. Consider junk food. Many people say, "I have no self-control." Maybe. Or maybe they have too much temptation. Imagine keeping bowls of candy on every table. Eventually, someone eats them. Now imagine replacing those bowls with fruit. The environment changed. The decision became easier. Your surroundings are constantly making decisions on your behalf. Choose them wisely. The same principle applies to procrastination. People often believe procrastination comes from laziness. It usually comes from friction. The task feels too large, too confusing, too overwhelming. So they avoid it. What if instead of saying, "Write the entire report," you simply said, "Open the document"? What if instead of "Exercise for an hour," you said, "Put on your shoes"? Reduce friction. Increase action. Small beginnings create lasting momentum. The hardest part is rarely the work itself. It is starting. Design discipline. Make good decisions easier. Make bad decisions harder. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. Professional athletes know this. They prepare equipment the night before. Successful entrepreneurs schedule important work before distractions begin. Writers remove interruptions before sitting down. Pilots follow checklists. Surgeons follow procedures. None of these professionals rely entirely on memory or motivation. They rely on systems. Systems protect discipline. Discipline protects results. You have a choice. That's the key. Every habit you repeat becomes easier. This is one of the most encouraging truths about self-control. The beginning always feels hardest. The first workout, the first early morning, the first difficult conversation, the first day without unnecessary scrolling, the first healthy meal. The resistance feels enormous. But every repetition weakens resistance. Your brain begins recognizing patterns. What once felt impossible becomes familiar. What felt uncomfortable becomes normal. What felt forced becomes automatic. This is how identities are built, not through one heroic act, through ordinary consistency. Imagine water falling onto stone. One drop changes nothing. 1,000,000 drops reshape the rock. Habits work exactly the same way. Small actions, repeated patiently, reshape character. Eventually, people begin describing you differently. They say, "You're so disciplined. You always finish. You're dependable. You stay calm. You never quit." They think they are describing personality. They are actually describing habits repeated for years. Your reputation is simply your habits made visible. That is why every small victory matters. When you resist unnecessary scrolling today, you strengthen tomorrow's discipline. When you finish your workout today, tomorrow becomes slightly easier. When you keep one promise to yourself today, self-trust quietly grows. Each victory whispers, "I can do this." Confidence is built exactly that way, not through positive thinking alone, through repeated proof. Evidence creates belief. Belief creates identity. Identity creates consistency. Consistency creates excellence. Remember the final truth of this chapter. You become what you repeatedly do. Say it again. You become what you repeatedly do. Not what you occasionally attempt, not what you wish for, not what you promise, what you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly choose courage, you become courageous. If you repeatedly choose patience, you become patient. If you repeatedly choose discipline, discipline becomes who you are. That is the real goal. Not forcing yourself forever. Becoming someone for whom disciplined action is natural. Never forget the 3 principles that define this chapter. Small actions become permanent character. Design discipline. You become what you repeatedly do. Repeat them until they become part of your daily identity. Because habits are always shaping someone. The only question is whether they are shaping the person you hope to become. Choose your habits wisely. Then let time do its work. Chapter 6. Protect your attention like your greatest asset. There is one resource more valuable than money, more valuable than talent, more valuable than opportunity. You can lose money and earn it back. You can develop new skills. You can create new opportunities. But once your attention has been spent, that moment is gone forever. That is why attention has become the true currency of modern life. Not dollars, not status. Attention. Every company wants it. Every advertisement competes for it. Every notification demands it. Every headline is designed to capture it. The question is no longer whether people will try to steal your attention. They will. The real question is whether you will protect it. You have a choice. That's the key. Every time you give your attention to something, you're paying with a portion of your life. Think about that. You never spend only 5 minutes. You spend 5 minutes of your existence. Minutes that will never return. Hours that can never be recovered. Years that quietly disappear. Most people never notice this theft because it happens one distraction at a time. Nobody wakes up intending to waste 10 years. Instead, they waste 10 minutes. Then another 10. Then another. Days become months. Months become years. A life is slowly consumed by moments that felt insignificant. That is how distraction wins. Not through one dramatic event. Through endless, tiny interruptions. Remember this. Attention is power. Say it again. Attention is power. Whatever controls your attention eventually controls your life. If fear controls your attention, fear begins directing your decisions. If comparison controls your attention, insecurity begins shaping your identity. If meaningless entertainment controls your attention, your potential quietly fades. But if purpose controls your attention, everything changes. Your decisions improve. Your habits strengthen. Your future becomes clearer. Because attention determines direction. Direction determines destiny. Imagine sunlight spreading across an entire field. It provides warmth. Now imagine that same light concentrated through a magnifying glass. Suddenly, it has enough intensity to ignite fire. Your mind works exactly the same way. Scattered attention produces scattered results. Focused attention produces extraordinary power. Most people are mentally scattered. They begin one task. A message arrives, they answer it. A notification appears, they check it. An email arrives, they switch again. Someone sends a video, they watch it. Hours pass, they feel busy. Yet almost nothing meaningful has been completed. Being busy is not the same as being productive. Motion is not progress. Activity is not achievement. The world rewards results. Results require attention. You have a choice. That's the key. Many people proudly claim they can multitask. Science and experience repeatedly tell a different story. The human mind rarely performs two demanding tasks at once. Instead, it rapidly switches between them. Every switch carries a cost. Concentration weakens. Mistakes increase. Energy disappears. Time stretches longer than necessary. Imagine trying to read a book while someone changes the television channel every 30 seconds. Eventually, you stop understanding both. That is what constant task switching does to your mind. You never fully arrive anywhere. You remain partially present everywhere. Shallow attention creates shallow work. Deep attention creates deep results. Consider the master craftsperson shaping a piece of wood. Every movement is deliberate. Every cut requires concentration. Or imagine a composer writing music. A scientist solving a difficult problem, a surgeon performing an operation, a pilot landing an aircraft. None of these professions reward distraction. Excellence demands complete presence. The same principle applies whether you're writing an email, studying for an exam, building a business, or raising a family. The quality of your attention determines the quality of your work. The quality of your work determines the quality of your life. That is why focused people often accomplish more in 2 hours than distracted people accomplish in an entire day. Not because they possess more intelligence, because they protect one thing others constantly surrender: their attention. Remember this. Protect your focus. Repeat it. Protect your focus. Focus is not merely the ability to concentrate, it is the ability to eliminate. Every meaningful yes requires dozens of meaningful no's. No to unnecessary meetings. No to constant notifications. No to endless scrolling. No to conversations that consume energy without creating value. No to habits that divide your mind. The disciplined person understands a difficult truth. Every commitment costs attention. That is why wise people choose carefully. Imagine carrying 10 heavy bags. Each one seems manageable, but eventually your hands become exhausted. Your attention works the same way. Every unfinished project occupies mental space. Every unresolved decision consumes energy. Every unnecessary obligation steals focus from what truly matters. Learn to simplify. Finish what matters. Release what doesn't. Your mind was built for clarity, not constant clutter. There is another danger that few people recognize: information overload. For most of human history, knowledge was difficult to obtain. Today, the opposite is true. Information never stops. News updates, videos, podcasts, posts, opinions, predictions, arguments, advice. Your brain receives more information in one day than previous generations sometimes received in weeks. More information does not automatically produce more wisdom. Sometimes it produces confusion. Sometimes it produces anxiety. Sometimes it produces paralysis. People become experts at consuming, beginners at applying. Knowledge without action changes nothing. One useful idea, practiced consistently, is more valuable than 1,000 forgotten facts. You have a choice. That's the key. Ask yourself before consuming anything: does this strengthen me? Does this educate me? Does this inspire meaningful action? Or does it simply occupy my attention? If the answer is the last one, reconsider. Not everything deserves entrance into your mind. Think of your mind as a house. Would you allow every stranger to walk through your front door? Of course not. Then, why allow every headline, every rumor, every argument, and every algorithm unlimited access to your thinking? Discipline includes deciding what enters, not just what leaves. That is why intentional digital boundaries are no longer optional. They are essential. You do not need to abandon technology. Technology is a remarkable tool, but tools become dangerous when they become masters. Use your phone. Do not let your phone use you. Open social media with purpose. Do not wander endlessly. Check your messages intentionally. Do not live waiting for the next notification. There is an enormous difference. One is conscious. The other is automatic. One strengthens self-control. The other weakens it. Create boundaries before temptation arrives. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Schedule times to check email instead of checking constantly. Leave your phone outside your bedroom. Eat meals without a screen. Take walks without headphones. Spend time with people without interrupting every conversation to glance at a device. At first, silence may feel uncomfortable. Then something remarkable happens. Your mind begins recovering. You notice details again. Ideas return. Creativity awakens. Conversations become deeper. Your ability to think improves because your attention is no longer fragmented. Many people search endlessly for peace. Often, peace is simply what remains after unnecessary noise disappears. Remember the final principle of this chapter. Guard what enters your mind. Repeat it. Guard what enters your mind. Because every book you read shapes your thinking. Every conversation influences your perspective. Every video leaves a trace. Every environment leaves an imprint. Your mind becomes the sum of what you repeatedly allow inside. Choose wisely. Protect it carefully. Feed it intentionally. Never forget the 3 principles that define this chapter. Attention is power. Protect your focus. Guard what enters your mind. Repeat them until they become the standard by which you measure every distraction. Because your attention is your life in its purest form. Where you consistently place it is where your future is quietly being built. Protect it with the same determination that you would protect your health, your family, or your freedom. Because once your attention belongs to you again, your life begins to belong to you again. Chapter 7. Build discipline. Nobody can see. The strongest version of you is not revealed when everyone is watching. It is revealed when no one is, when the room is empty, when the phone is silent, when there is no applause, no recognition, no reward. Those are the moments that shape your character, not because they are dramatic, because they are honest. Anyone can perform when an audience is present. Anyone can appear disciplined for a few hours. Anyone can look committed when praise is guaranteed. But what do you do when there is nothing to gain except becoming a better person? That answer defines your future. You have a choice. That's the key. Every private moment is a hidden vote, not for your reputation, for your identity. The world eventually sees your results, but only you witness the decisions that created them. That is why real discipline is always invisible before it becomes obvious. A building stands tall because of a foundation buried beneath the ground. Nobody admires the concrete. Nobody takes photographs of the steel hidden inside the walls. Yet without that invisible structure, the building collapses. Your character works the same way. Everything visible rests upon something unseen. Remember this: who you are alone defines who you become. Say it again. Who you are alone defines who you become. Imagine two people. Both speak confidently about success. Both claim to value discipline. Both tell others they are committed. Now remove the audience. One immediately reaches for distractions. The other quietly returns to work. One keeps promises only when someone expects results. The other keeps promises because integrity matters more than recognition. Months later, their lives begin separating. Not because they possessed different talent, because they made different private decisions. Character is built in secret. Results simply introduce it to the world. Many people misunderstand integrity. They believe integrity means appearing honest. It doesn't. Integrity means remaining honest when dishonesty would be easier. It means doing the right thing when nobody would ever discover the alternative. It means refusing shortcuts even when shortcuts seem harmless. Integrity is invisible until it is tested. Anyone can claim principles. Life eventually asks for proof. Suppose you discover extra money accidentally deposited into your account. Nobody notices. What do? Suppose you're working remotely. No one is monitoring your screen. Do you work with excellence? Or do you waste the hours you were trusted to use wisely? Suppose you promised yourself you would wake up early. No one else knows. The alarm rings. Do you rise? Or negotiate with yourself? These moments appear insignificant. They are not. They are rehearsals. Every private decision trains the person you become in public. You have a choice. That's the key. The remarkable thing about character is that it compounds quietly. Every honest decision strengthens future honesty. Every disciplined decision strengthens future discipline. Every broken promise weakens future trust, especially trust in yourself. That is why the person you deceive most dangerously is not someone else. It is yourself. Each time you promise to begin tomorrow and don't. Each time you say you will exercise but remain on the couch. Each time you promise to study but choose distraction. You teach yourself something. My own word cannot be trusted. Think carefully about the cost of that lesson. Confidence is impossible without self-trust. How can you believe in yourself if you repeatedly prove yourself unreliable? This is why keeping promises to yourself matters so much. Not because anyone else is watching, because you are. The relationship you have with yourself determines every other relationship in your life. If you cannot trust yourself, everything becomes harder. Discipline begins restoring that trust. One promise, kept. Then another. Then another. Eventually, your mind begins believing you again. That belief becomes confidence. Not empty confidence, earned confidence. There is a profound difference. Consider the quiet victories that almost no one celebrates. Waking up when the alarm rings, preparing healthy meals, reading one chapter before bed, choosing water instead of another sugary drink, saving money instead of spending it, finishing a difficult task before relaxing, practicing a skill long after excitement disappears. These moments rarely appear on social media. There are no trophies, no headlines, no standing ovations. Yet these ordinary actions quietly create extraordinary people. Most people want public success. Very few are willing to embrace private discipline. Remember this: private discipline creates public success. Repeat it. Private discipline creates public success. The athlete lifting weights before sunrise is invisible. The audience only sees the championship. The musician practicing scales for years goes unnoticed. The audience only hears the concert. The entrepreneur working late after everyone else has gone home receives little recognition. The world notices only when the company succeeds. People admire outcomes. Life rewards preparation. Never confuse visibility with value. Some of the most important work you will ever do happens where no one can see it. There is another reason private discipline matters. It protects you from becoming dependent on approval. Many people work hard only when someone praises them. Remove the praise, and the effort disappears. Remove the audience, and the commitment fades. That is not discipline. That is performance. Real discipline survives silence. Imagine planting a tree. For months, almost nothing seems to happen. The roots are spreading beneath the soil. Invisible, silent, patient. Someone unfamiliar with growth might believe nothing is changing. Then one day, the tree begins rising quickly. People call it sudden success. It was never sudden. The invisible work simply became visible. Your progress works exactly the same way. For weeks, you may see little improvement. For months, your habits may feel ordinary. For years, your discipline may appear unnoticed. Do not become discouraged. Roots are growing. Character is deepening. Strength is developing beneath the surface. The invisible season always comes before the visible harvest. That is why patience is essential. Too many people abandon the process because results have not yet appeared. They mistake invisibility for failure. It is not failure. It is preparation. You have a choice. That's the key. Will you continue even when nobody notices? Will you improve without applause? Will you remain committed without immediate results? Those questions determine everything. The disciplined person understands something powerful. Progress does not require recognition. It requires repetition. Imagine placing one brick every single day. One brick seems meaningless. 100 bricks begin forming a wall. 1,000 bricks create a building. Each brick mattered, even when it looked insignificant. Your daily habits are those bricks. Keep placing them. Confidence grows exactly this way. Many people believe confidence appears before action. It rarely does. Confidence follows evidence. Evidence follows action. Each promise you keep becomes another piece of evidence. Evidence accumulates. Eventually, your mind says, I trust this person. That person is you. No motivational speech can replace that feeling. No compliment from another person equals it. Because real confidence is internal. It cannot be borrowed. It must be earned. And it is earned one promise at a time. Suppose you decide to exercise every morning for 30 days. You complete every workout. No one congratulates you. No one even knows. Yet something changes. When life becomes difficult, you no longer wonder if you're capable. You already possess proof. You have evidence of discipline, evidence of consistency, evidence of endurance. That evidence becomes emotional armor. It protects you during moments of doubt. That is why invisible victories are never truly invisible. They leave permanent marks on your identity. Celebrate those victories. Not with arrogance, with gratitude. Every temptation resisted. Every promise kept. Every difficult decision completed. Every excuse rejected. These are victories worthy of celebration, not because the world saw them, because they changed you. Remember the final principle of this chapter. Keep your word to yourself. Say it again. Keep your word to yourself. If you promise to wake up, wake up. If you promise to study, study. If you promise to finish, finish. If you promise to become stronger, act accordingly. Your words are contracts, especially the ones you make with yourself. Honor them, again and again, until keeping your word becomes part of your identity. Never forget the 3 principles that define this chapter. Who you are alone defines who you become. Private discipline creates public success. Keep your word to yourself. Repeat them until they become the quiet standards by which you live every day. Because the strongest people are rarely the loudest. They are the ones who continue doing what is right long after the applause has disappeared. And when success finally arrives, others will call it talent. You will know the truth. It was built in silence. It was built in ordinary mornings, difficult evenings, lonely decisions, and promises honored when no one else was watching. Chapter 8. Stop negotiating with weakness. Weakness rarely knocks on your door and announces itself. It doesn't arrive wearing the face of failure. It doesn't say, I am here to ruin your future. If it did, you would reject it immediately. Weakness is far more persuasive than that. It speaks softly. It sounds logical. It sounds compassionate. It sounds reasonable. It says, you've had a long day. You deserve a break. You can start tomorrow. One time won't matter. You're not ready yet. Every excuse sounds intelligent in the moment. That is why excuses are so dangerous. They don't ask you to destroy your life. They ask you to delay your discipline. Just once. Then once becomes twice. Twice becomes a habit. The habit becomes your identity. The identity becomes your future. You have a choice. That's the key. The battle is almost never between good and evil. It is between discipline and convenience. Convenience always has an argument. Discipline has a decision. Remember this. Excuses are expensive. Say it again. Excuses are expensive. The strange thing about excuses is that they often contain a piece of truth. You really are tired. The weather really is unpleasant. The project really is difficult. Someone really did disappoint you. The facts may be accurate. The conclusion is usually wrong. Being tired is not proof that you should quit. Feeling nervous is not proof that you should avoid the opportunity. Facing difficulty is not proof that success is impossible. Your emotions provide information. They do not provide permission. That distinction changes everything. Imagine two people waking up before sunrise. Both are exhausted. One says, "I'll exercise tomorrow." The other says, "I'm tired, but I'm still getting up." Neither person feels motivated. The difference is not emotion. The difference is obedience. One obeys comfort. The other obeys commitment. Years later, those mornings become completely different lives. People often imagine weakness as something dramatic. They picture addiction, failure, collapse. But weakness usually appears in ordinary clothing. 5 more minutes in bed. One unnecessary purchase. 1 hour of scrolling. One unfinished task. One avoided conversation. One broken promise. Tiny decisions, repeated daily. That is how potential quietly disappears. A river does not carve a canyon in one afternoon. It does so through constant repetition. Weakness shapes lives the same way. One comfortable choice after another, until people wake up wondering where the years went. Never underestimate small compromises. Every compromise teaches your mind something. If you consistently negotiate with weakness, weakness becomes your leader. If you consistently challenge weakness, discipline becomes your identity. You have a choice. That's the key. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they must feel ready before they begin. They wait for confidence. They wait for certainty. They wait for perfect timing. Meanwhile, life continues moving. Opportunity does not wait. Time certainly doesn't. Think about how many dreams remain unfinished because someone kept saying, "Not yet." The book was never written. The business was never started. The apology was never offered. The healthy life was never lived. Not because these things were impossible, because the decision kept being postponed. Indecision is often disguised as preparation. People convince themselves they are thinking carefully. In reality, they are simply avoiding discomfort. There is a difference between planning and hiding. Planning has a deadline. Avoidance keeps extending one. This is why decisive people move forward while others remain trapped. They understand a simple truth. Action creates clarity. Waiting rarely does. Remember this. Decide once. Repeat it. Decide once. Decide that you're someone who exercises. Then stop debating every morning. Decide that you no longer waste money impulsively. Then stop negotiating at every store. Decide that you finish what you begin. Then stop asking yourself each day whether you feel like continuing. Every repeated decision drains energy. Every permanent decision creates freedom. Imagine driving through a city while stopping at every intersection to question your destination. You would never arrive. Life works exactly the same way. If you keep renegotiating your values, your progress slows to a crawl. Strong people remove unnecessary debates. They decide who they are. Then they behave accordingly. This does not make life easier. It makes life clearer. One reason action matters so much is because action changes emotion. Most people believe emotion creates action. Often the opposite is true. Action creates emotion. You don't become confident and then speak. You speak, and confidence grows. You don't become disciplined and then exercise. You exercise, and discipline grows. You don't suddenly feel productive. You begin working, and momentum appears. Action reduces resistance. The hardest part of almost every task is beginning. Once movement starts, resistance weakens. Imagine pushing a heavy car. The first few inches require enormous effort. Once the wheels begin turning, movement becomes easier. Your mind follows the same principle. Start writing one sentence. Soon you're writing pages. Read one page. Soon you're reading chapters. Walk for 5 minutes. Soon you're exercising for an hour. Do not wait for motivation. Create it through movement. Action is often the cure people are waiting to feel. You have a choice. That's the key. Another lesson. Mentally strong people understand is this: willpower is valuable. Systems are stronger. Many people spend every day testing their self-control. They place temptation directly in front of themselves. Then they hope discipline wins. Sometimes it does. Eventually, it becomes exhausted. Imagine trying to resist eating cookies while keeping them on your desk all day. Now imagine simply not buying them. Which strategy requires less effort? The answer is obvious. That is why systems outperform willpower. The disciplined person asks, "How can I make the right decision automatic?" instead of, "How can I become stronger every minute?" Strength matters. Systems multiply strength. Professional pilots don't rely on memory. They use checklists. Elite athletes don't trust motivation. They follow training schedules. Successful businesses rely on processes, not daily inspiration. Your personal life deserves the same level of design. Lay out your workout clothes before bed. Prepare healthy meals in advance. Schedule your most important work before checking messages. Set automatic savings transfers. Create routines instead of relying on emotion. Every good system removes one unnecessary decision. Every unnecessary decision saves mental energy. Eventually, your day becomes easier because discipline has already been built into your environment. You no longer fight every battle. Many battles disappear before they begin. That is intelligent self-control. Remember this: commit before you feel ready. Say it again. Commit before you feel ready. Because readiness is often the reward for commitment, not the requirement. No one feels completely prepared to become a parent, to lead a company, to stand on a stage, to change their life. They commit. Then they grow into the responsibility. Waiting to feel ready keeps you standing still. Committing forces you to become capable. There will always be uncertainty. Walk anyway. There will always be discomfort. Move anyway. There will always be reasons to delay. Begin anyway. Your future belongs to the version of you that acts despite uncertainty. Not because fear disappeared, because commitment became stronger than fear. Every time you refuse another excuse, your standards rise. Every time you stop negotiating with weakness, your identity changes. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The conversation inside your mind becomes quieter. The excuses still appear, but they no longer sound convincing. You hear them. You smile. Then you continue working. That is freedom. Not the absence of temptation, the absence of surrender. Never forget the 3 principles that define this chapter. Excuses are expensive. Decide once. Commit before you feel ready. Repeat them until they become automatic responses whenever weakness begins to negotiate. Because the strongest people are not those who never hear excuses. They are the ones who stop giving excuses the final vote. They make the decision. They honor the decision. They keep moving. One disciplined step after another. Chapter 9. Win the small battles. Every day, most people are waiting for one big moment, one breakthrough, one opportunity, one lucky connection, one perfect idea, one life-changing event. They believe success arrives all at once. It rarely does. Life changes much more quietly than that. It changes in ordinary moments, moments so small that most people never notice them. The decision to get out of bed when the alarm rings, the decision to finish one more page, the decision to remain calm instead of reacting, the decision to save instead of spend, the decision to tell the truth when a lie would be easier. These moments seem too small to matter. That is exactly why they matter so much. Everyone notices dramatic decisions. Almost no one respects the ordinary ones. Yet the ordinary ones create the dramatic ones. You have a choice. That's the key. Every decision is a vote, not for what happens today, for who you become tomorrow. Imagine standing before two doors every morning. One door leads toward the person you hope to become. The other leads toward the person you are trying to leave behind. Every choice pushes one door open. Every habit casts another vote. Every reaction strengthens one identity while weakening another. You may not notice the change after one vote. You certainly notice it after 10,000. Remember this: small victories become great lives. Say it again. Small victories become great lives. People often underestimate consistency because consistency looks ordinary. It lacks excitement. There are no dramatic headlines about someone who quietly kept their promises for 5 years. No one applauds the person who chose a healthy breakfast every morning. No one celebrates someone who calmly avoided unnecessary arguments. Yet these are the decisions that quietly separate exceptional lives from average ones. The world admires results. Results admire consistency. Think about a sculptor creating a masterpiece. No single strike of the chisel creates the final statue. One careful movement, then another, then another. Thousands of small corrections reveal something extraordinary. Your character is sculpted exactly the same way, not by giant moments, by repeated ordinary choices. The greatest danger is believing that one small decision doesn't matter. One missed workout, one unnecessary purchase, one broken promise, 1 hour wasted. Individually, they appear harmless. But life is never lived individually. Life is lived cumulatively. Everything adds together. Imagine placing 1 grain of sand into a jar every day. The first week looks insignificant. The first month seems unimpressive. Eventually, the jar becomes full. Every grain mattered. So does every decision. You have a choice. That's the key. One disciplined action may seem invisible. 1,000 disciplined actions become impossible to ignore. The same principle works in reverse. One careless action rarely destroys a life. Repeated carelessness often does. That is why discipline demands daily attention, not occasional effort. Daily effort. The battle is not won once, it is won repeatedly. Every sunrise offers another opportunity. Every morning asks the same question. Who will you become today? Notice the question. Not this year. Today? Because tomorrow is always built from today's decisions, never from tomorrow's intentions. Many people love setting goals. Very few love honoring today's responsibilities. Goals are valuable. But goals alone cannot change your life. Systems do. Actions do. Consistency does. A goal points the direction. Today's choices move your feet. Without today's actions, goals remain wishes. Remember that. Now think about the simplest habits imaginable. Making your bed. At first, it seems insignificant. It takes less than 2 minutes. Many people dismiss it as unnecessary. But the habit is not about blankets. It is about identity. When you make your bed, you begin the day by completing something. You send yourself a message. I finish what I start. That message matters, because your first decision often influences the next one. Momentum is real. One completed action encourages another. One disciplined hour often produces another disciplined hour. Small victories become great lives. Think about unfinished tasks. Many people constantly leave small things incomplete. A half-finished project, an unanswered email, a cluttered workspace, a conversation they keep postponing. Each unfinished task occupies mental space. The mind quietly carries the weight. Eventually, that invisible burden becomes stress. Now imagine finishing what you begin, returning the call, cleaning the desk, completing the report, crossing the task off your list. The relief you experience is not merely productivity, it is freedom. Completion creates energy. Unfinished work consumes it. That is why disciplined people value closure, not because they enjoy checking boxes, because they protect mental clarity. Nothing is insignificant. Repeat it. Nothing is insignificant. The meal you choose matters. The words you speak matter. The thoughts you repeat matter. The promises you keep matter. The conversations you avoid matter. The books you read matter. The people you spend time with matter. Everything teaches your mind something. Everything strengthens some part of your identity. Suppose someone insults you. Your immediate reaction may be to respond with equal anger. Instead, you pause. You breathe. You choose calm. To an observer, that moment lasts only seconds. Internally, something much larger has happened. You prove to yourself that your emotions no longer own you. That victory matters. Suppose you finish dinner. You feel the urge to continue eating even though you're no longer hungry. You stop. No one notices. Yet your identity notices. Another vote has been cast. Suppose you promise yourself 30 minutes of focused work. Halfway through, your phone lights up. You ignore it. You continue working. Again, the world may never know, but another victory has been recorded. These are not small moments. These are the moments from which great lives are built. People often believe extraordinary outcomes require extraordinary effort every day. They don't. They require ordinary effort performed extraordinarily consistently. Imagine someone walking 1 mile every day. The first day changes almost nothing. After 1 year, they have walked hundreds of miles. Imagine someone reading 10 pages every day. One day seems trivial. 1 year becomes thousands of pages, entire libraries of knowledge. Imagine someone saving a small amount every week. The beginning feels almost meaningless. Years later, they possess financial freedom others assumed required luck. Consistency transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. That is one of life's greatest laws. You have a choice. That's the key. Never underestimate calmness during conflict. Conflict reveals habits faster than comfort ever will. Anyone can remain patient when everything goes well. Real discipline appears when life becomes difficult. A disagreement begins. Your heart beats faster. Your emotions demand immediate action. But instead of reacting, you listen. Instead of interrupting, you ask questions. Instead of escalating, you seek understanding. One conversation, one victory, one stronger identity. People may remember you as calm. They don't realize calmness was practiced hundreds of times before it became natural. Everything worth becoming requires repetition. There is another mistake many people make. They measure success too far into the future. They ask, "Have I reached my goal?" The answer is often no. Discouragement follows. Instead, ask a different question. Did I honor today's commitments? That answer remains under your control. You cannot fully control when success arrives. You can control whether you honored today. You cannot control every opportunity. You can control your preparation. You cannot control other people. You can control your own standards. Measure yourself by today's discipline, not tomorrow's rewards. This perspective changes everything. Progress becomes sustainable. Motivation becomes less important. Responsibility becomes daily. Every morning becomes another opportunity. Every evening becomes another report card. Did I keep my promises? Did I stay focused? Did I act with integrity? Did I become slightly stronger than yesterday? If the answer is yes, then today was successful. Whether anyone noticed or not, remember this: win today. Repeat it. Win today, not next month. Today, not after conditions improve. Today, not after motivation arrives. Today. Life is never lived in decades. It is lived in days. Days become weeks. Weeks become years. Years become a life. Win enough days, and the years take care of themselves. Never forget the 3 principles that define this chapter. Small victories become great lives. Nothing is insignificant. Win today. Repeat them until they become the rhythm of your daily thinking. Because greatness is never built in one heroic afternoon. It is built in ordinary mornings, quiet afternoons, disciplined evenings, one controlled moment after another, one choice after another, one victory after another. Eventually, people will ask how your life changed so dramatically. You will know the answer. It happened one day at a time, one battle at a time, one decision at a time. Chapter 10. Become the person who commands yourself. Everything you have heard in this audiobook has been leading to this moment, not toward a new technique, not toward another productivity trick, not toward temporary motivation, toward a new identity. Because lasting transformation never happens when you simply change what you do. It happens when you change who you believe you are. That is the final lesson. The goal was never to become someone who occasionally exercises discipline. The goal is to become someone for whom discipline is natural. Someone who commands themselves. Someone whose actions are guided by principles rather than impulses. Someone whose future is no longer controlled by emotion, distraction, convenience, or fear. That person is no longer waiting to be created. That person is built one decision at a time. You have a choice. That's the key. Every chapter has pointed toward one truth. You stopped obeying every impulse. You learned to master your emotions. You delayed pleasure instead of chasing immediate comfort. You guarded your mind. You strengthened your habits. You protected your attention. You practiced discipline in private. You stopped negotiating with weakness. You learned to win the small battles every day. None of those lessons stand alone. Together, they form one identity, the identity of someone who commands themselves. Remember this: I control myself before anything else. Say it again: I control myself before anything else. Before I try to control other people. Before I complain about circumstances. Before I blame the economy. Before I criticize my family. Before I expect the world to become easier. I control myself. Because self-command is the only form of control that never depends on permission. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need someone else's approval. You don't need life to become fair. You need command over yourself. That is the greatest form of freedom. Think about the strongest people you have ever met. Perhaps they were not the richest. Perhaps they were not the loudest. Perhaps they were not the most famous. Yet something about them stood out. They remained calm while others panicked. They remained disciplined while others complained. They remained focused while others became distracted. They remained kind without becoming weak. They remained steady while circumstances changed around them. What created that strength? Not luck, not talent alone. Self-command. They learned a truth that many people spend their entire lives avoiding. Life becomes easier when you become stronger, not the other way around. Many people wait for fewer problems before becoming disciplined. The disciplined person becomes stronger first. Then the problems lose their ability to control them. That changes everything. You have a choice. That's the key. There will always be temptations. There will always be distractions. There will always be difficult people. There will always be unexpected setbacks. There will always be moments when comfort whispers louder than commitment. Do not imagine that mastery means those voices disappear. Mastery means they no longer make your decisions. That is an entirely different way to live. Imagine standing in the middle of a violent storm. The wind pushes from every direction. Rain falls relentlessly. Thunder shakes the sky. Now imagine a mountain standing in that same storm. The storm is real. The mountain does not deny it. But the mountain remains. Become that mountain. Let life bring its storms. Remain rooted in your principles. Remain faithful to your commitments. Remain stronger than your impulses. Strength is not avoiding the storm. Strength is refusing to be moved by it. Every temptation you resist strengthens those roots. Every difficult decision deepens your foundation. Every promise you keep makes you more difficult to shake. Remember this: every choice shapes me. Repeat it. Every choice shapes me. Not some choices. Every choice. The way you begin your morning shapes you. The way you respond to criticism shapes you. The books you read shape you. The food you eat shapes you. The people you spend time with shape you. The standards you accept shape you. The excuses you reject shape you. Everything is training. The question is simple. What are you training yourself to become? Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The steel enters the fire. Again and again. It is struck repeatedly by the hammer. Again and again. The process appears harsh, but every strike gives the blade greater strength. Without pressure, the sword remains weak. Your life follows the same principle. Every challenge is another strike of the hammer. Every disappointment is another opportunity to become stronger. Every act of discipline tempers your character. Eventually, you become someone who no longer fears difficulty, because difficulty has become your teacher. Many people spend years searching for confidence. They ask, "How do I believe in myself?" The answer has been in front of them all along. Keep your promises. That is where confidence begins. Every promise kept becomes evidence. Evidence becomes trust. Trust becomes confidence. Confidence becomes courage. Courage becomes action. Action becomes achievement. Achievement strengthens identity. Identity sustains discipline. The cycle continues. This is why motivation becomes less important over time. Motivation comes and goes. Identity remains. The person who says, "I am trying to become disciplined," still debates every decision. The person who says, "I am disciplined," simply behaves accordingly. Identity removes negotiation. Identity simplifies action. Identity creates consistency. That is the true destination of this audiobook. Not better habits alone. A stronger identity. One built intentionally. One built patiently. One built honestly. You have a choice. That's the key. Ask yourself one question every morning. What would the strongest version of me do today? Then do that. Not tomorrow. Today. When temptation appears, ask again. When fear appears, ask again. When comfort calls your name, ask again. Let that question become your compass. Soon, you will no longer need to ask it. because the answer will become automatic. That is what transformation looks like. There is another truth you must remember. Self-control is never finished. It is practiced, every day. The strongest people never graduate from discipline. They continue training. They continue learning. They continue improving. The moment you believe you no longer need discipline is often the moment you begin losing it. Remain humble. Remain teachable. Remain consistent. Success is not maintained by yesterday's effort. It is maintained by today's choices. That is why every sunrise matters. Every morning offers another opportunity to strengthen your identity. Every evening offers another opportunity to examine it. Ask yourself, where did I honor my principles? Where did I compromise? What will I improve tomorrow? Do not ask these questions with guilt. Ask them with honesty. Growth requires honesty. Excuses require avoidance. Choose honesty. Again and again. Over time, something extraordinary happens. Discipline stops feeling heavy. It becomes freedom. You stop chasing every impulse. Your mind becomes quieter. Your decisions become clearer. Your emotions become steadier. Your relationships become healthier. Your work becomes deeper. Your confidence becomes unshakable. Not because life became easier, because you became stronger. This is what personal mastery truly means. It does not mean controlling every circumstance. No one can do that. It means controlling your response to every circumstance. The weather may change. People may disappoint you. Plans may fail. Markets may rise and fall. Health may be tested. Time will continue moving. Much of life will remain outside your control. But one thing always remains available: your response. And that response determines the quality of your life far more than the event itself. When you master yourself, circumstances lose their power over you. They may influence you. They no longer define you. You stop living as a victim of events. You begin living as the author of your character. That is real power, not power over other people. Power over yourself. The world respects people who command themselves. More importantly, they respect themselves. And self-respect is the foundation upon which every meaningful life is built. Remember the final truth: self-control is power. Say it again. Self-control is power. Not because it limits your life, because it expands it. It gives you choices. It gives you freedom. It gives you peace. It gives you confidence that cannot be purchased and cannot be taken away. Never forget the 3 principles that define this final chapter. I control myself before anything else. Every choice shapes me. Self-control is power. Repeat them every morning. Repeat them whenever temptation appears. Repeat them whenever doubt begins speaking louder than discipline. Let them become more than words. Let them become your identity. One day, people will notice something different about you. They will notice your calmness in chaos, your patience under pressure, your consistency when others give up, your quiet confidence when others seek approval. They may ask for your secret. There is no secret. Only thousands of unseen decisions. Thousands of quiet victories. Thousands of moments when you chose principles over impulses, purpose over comfort, discipline over excuses, and long-term freedom over short-term pleasure. That is how powerful people are made, not in one extraordinary moment, but in ordinary moments, repeated with extraordinary consistency. So as you leave this audiobook, remember this challenge. Do not try to control the entire world. Control yourself. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Create disciplined actions. Do not wait to become someone different. Begin acting like that person today. One decision, one promise, one victory, then another, and another. Because every choice shapes you, every disciplined action strengthens you, every controlled response frees you, and every day you choose self-command, you become the kind of person that no temptation, no distraction, no hardship, and no circumstance can ever truly control. Self-control is power. Always has been. Always will be. Everything you've heard in this audiobook comes back to one truth. Your future is not controlled by luck. It is controlled by the choices you make when nobody is watching. Every temptation you resist makes you stronger. Every emotion you master makes you calmer. Every distraction you ignore makes you sharper. Every promise you keep to yourself builds unshakable confidence. Self-control is not punishment. It is freedom. It is the ability to choose your future instead of reacting to your present. Remember this whenever life tests you. Every small victory matters. Every disciplined action becomes another brick in the person you are becoming. Starting today, stop asking what you feel like doing. Ask what the strongest version of yourself would do, and then do exactly that. If this audiobook changed the way you think, carry its lessons into every decision you make. Because when you command yourself, nothing else can command you.